welcome to this morning's practice again. And because today is the 20th of March, 21st tomorrow, it's the spring equinox. So I thought today we'd dedicate this practice to spring equinox. So at the start, sit comfortably, lie down, stand up, whatever. I'll just talk for a few moments just to tell you a little bit about what spring equinox means for nature and for us as part of that nature. So equinox literally means equal night, which means that the sun, the day and the night are the same. Hello, kitty cat. And then after that, obviously, it's going up the energy, the sun towards summer. So we're heading in the right direction. With that, it does mean that we'll feel probably more energetic. This is a good time to put some of the projects to fruition. If you've planted some seeds of intentions, if you had some dreams, wishes during the winter time when the energy was more dormant, now is the time to actually realize those dreams, wishes, like I said, projects, maybe starting something new, really giving outlet to your creativity, whatever that might be. So it's great, it's good news. But with that, because the energy is flying high, it does also mean that for some of us, it might affect us in a way that we won't feel grounded, we won't feel balanced, we will have less of that peace, calm, clarity of mind, perhaps even less than usual, that is. So it is important to also keep that in mind. So today's practice will be very much about balancing those different energies. Surya, the sun, Chandra, the moon, the feminine, the masculine, and trying to bring us into more balance in our physical bodies and through it with our emotions in our minds. And to start that, we'll do a pranayama breathing technique called nadi shodhana, which is when we're switching different nostrils, inhaling through one nostril, exhaling through the other to activate those different parts. And so the left side, I'm not showing on me because it's the mirror image, but your left side is the Chandra, the feminine side, so quieter, nourishing, nurturing, but also can be, lethargic at times. And the right side of the body is Surya, the sun, masculine, dynamic, energetic, but again can be aggressive, can be a bit too much. So we're trying to bring that in balance. To do that, we will be breathing through alternating nostrils. I'll just turn this way for a moment. So again, I'm not confusing the size, but we normally start by blocking off the right nostril, inhaling through the left. Oh, and also traditionally, to do that, you'd bring your index finger and middle finger towards your palm, and then you're blocking off your right nostril with your thumb and your left with your pinky and the ring finger. But if that doesn't work, just any way that works for you is fine too, absolutely okay. So we're starting off by blocking off the right nostril, inhaling, block off the left, exhale, inhale through the right, close it off, exhale through the left, inhale through the left, close it off, exhale through the right, and keep going. Hopefully you got the gist of it. Obviously talking and doing it is not possible at the same time, so we'll have a few minutes of quiet. So we're blocking off one nostril, inhaling and exhaling through the same one. Keep going at your own pace. going here if that feels nice for you. And maybe you can close the eyes once you've really gotten into the rhythm of it. Maybe you're noticing that each time you inhale and exhale, there's a lengthening of both the in-breath and the out-breath. It might become longer without forcing it to happen, but naturally so. And possibly also a pause, a kumbhak in Sanskrit, might start occurring at the top of the inhalation, at the apex of the nose, at the bottom of the exhalation, where one of your nostrils is. See if that is true for you. Again, we're not intentionally holding the breath, but if a pause happens for a few seconds, then this is your experience today. And this really keeps balancing out the two sides of the body. And in the center we have Sushumna Nadi. Nadi is the Sanskrit term for the energy centers. There are lots, thousands of them in the body in general, but the main ones, the Surya and the Chandra, the sun and the moon, the masculine and the feminine, are those main energies, and we're trying to bring them into balance. So feel free to slowly release the pranayama, and you might need a tissue after that. So I should have probably mentioned it at the start. It might be nice to have a tissue for it. Equally, if for any of you practicing this from home, for example, one of the nostrils is blocked off, then of course it won't work. And another thing also to keep in mind, this was to bring balance, that's why we're using both nostrils. But if you ever feeling like, oh, I'm really slow, kind of lethargic, tired, I need a little bit of energy, that's where you block off your left nostril, which is, you know, that moon, the Ida channel in the body, and you're just breathing through your right nostril, just normal like we did, but that creates more energy, and vice versa. If you're particularly anxious, you feel like there might be too much energy, feeling you need to settle down, that's where you're closing off your right nostril, your sun, your Surya, your Pingala, and you're breathing through the left nostril. And then this pranayama nadi shodhana becomes Surya Dhyana, piercing the sun, or Chandra Dhyana, piercing the moon, and that also helps with that energy. Okay, hopefully we're feeling a little bit more balanced now, at least in the mind, and now let's bring that balance more into the body. But let's start with just warming up the neck and the shoulders. Do remember to switch the cross of the legs at any point, or the position, to make it more comfortable for you. You can combine the movement with the breath if it feels nice. Maybe inhaling, shoulders lift up, and exhaling to release them down. And then switching direction at any point. Yes, and your shoulders will thank you for it afterwards, even if there is some tightness at the moment. Lovely. Let's inhale. Open up the arms with the shoulder blades reaching towards one another. Exhale, giving yourself a hug, placing opposite hand on opposite shoulder blade. Inhale to open up again. Exhale, switching the cross of the arms. Keep going here at your own pace. Lovely. And if it feels nice to just come to one position and stay there longer, taking a full breath in before moving the other way, then just remember it is always an option. Really nice. Okay, brilliant. reaching it up a little bit more. So we've warmed up our upper body, our thoracic spine, the mid-back, the chest, the area that gets really tight for most of us. And equally now, let's give some attention to our hips. So sitting on the sitting bones, taking the feet a little bit wider than the hips, or maybe really wide, and then finding some windscreen wipers here. You can always start with smaller movements and then increase their range of motion. And if you take the knees over to one side and look the other way, then there's also twist through the spine, and you can twist the pelvis a little bit more if that feels nice for you. Before going the other way, because that's where you'll probably also find some release into the spine, the lower back. Yes, if you need to give your wrist a shake at any point, feel free to do so. Lovely. And then bringing the soles of the feet together, finding our butterfly pose, Baddha Konasana, bound angle. If you want to, you can flutter your butterfly wings to the gentle movement of the knees, or just stay here in a static hold, thinking about the inner thighs, stretching here. Hopefully you can feel that. And then inhale to lengthen the spine. As you exhale, can you guide the chest towards the feet, so towards the floor, the mat, if you wanted a deeper stretch. And maybe you don't need that today, and that is absolutely fine too. Meeting your body where it needs to be today. No need to go anywhere else. Lovely. Brilliant. Okay, from here we will transition onto our backs. Opening the window because luckily the sun is here, which is great, but it does mean that it's relatively warm. Okay, so coming onto the backs, just make sure that if you need to look at me, that you're not doing anything uncomfortable with the neck. You can always come up and look up if needed. Placing the feet about hip width apart and relatively close to the sitting bones. So maybe you can touch the heels or almost touch the heels with your fingertips. Can we check that the neck is nice and long? So tucking the chin in ever so slightly. If you're using, a little cushion pillow, like a Pilates type pillow underneath the head, or a thin blanket, that's fine too, but just checking that the neck is long. And then also checking that the shoulder blades are connecting down into the mat, and that we're not flaring the rib cage out. So we're softening the rib cage down, lower ribs and hip bones kind of moving closer towards one another. And by doing that, hopefully you can feel some engagement through the lower abdominals, straight away some engagement into your glutes, so your core muscles are already engaged, even though we haven't moved yet. Once we have this strong foundation, the muscles are working for us, they're protecting our lower back from any discomfort. We can then inhale, pressing into the heels and lift the hips up. So it's not about going really high for a variation of, a yogic type of bridge. It's more about engaging the glutes. As we exhale, we'll lower the hips down. Can we do it like this 4 or 5 more times? So inhale the hips up as you're lifting the hips, and exhale to lower down. Finding your rhythm here. And as you keep going, I will just make a comment that in Pilates, this is a very common movement as well, bridges. And the breath is actually, the breathing pattern is the opposite. We exhale to lift the hips and inhale to lower. So for me, as long as you're breathing, you're using your breath to guide you here through the movement. You're not holding your breath, because that's usually a sign from the body that maybe you need to change something. Then I'm happy with it. Lovely. Let's hug the knees towards the chest. You can rock and roll through the spine. A little bit here. Finding some circular movements, massaging the lower back. Beautiful. And then reaching for your feet, either the outer edges or the inner arches, for Ananda Balasana, Happy Baby pose. Now in the Happy Baby, we're thinking about stepping the feet onto the ceiling, making them parallel to the ceiling, as we're also pulling the knees closer towards the mat. Sometimes it's easier to do it just one leg at a time, so you can always try that, just focusing on one leg and then the other. And if for whatever reason this is not an accessible pose for you today, maybe some tightness around the hips and the thighs, you could also just bring your forearms underneath the knees and also try this option. This is just a bit of the inner thigh stretch, and if you're going for more of this traditional Happy Baby, then if you're able to extend the legs a little bit more here, you should be feeling it into your hamstrings. But do check that the neck is still long and connecting into the mat, that the shoulder blades are still also pressing against the mat. So whilst we're stretching one part of the body, we're not adding any unnecessary tension elsewhere. Lovely. Let's extend the right leg onto the mat and then bring the left knee towards you, with the hands on top of the knee, creating some circular movements again into the hip joint this time. Just really limbering up the body, all the joints, saying hello to all the muscles and ligaments as well. Welcoming yourself on the mat in this way. And then guide your knee towards the right, if you're doing the same side as me, as the gaze goes to the left. So a supine twist, Jatara Parivartanasana, and maybe you extend your left arm out long onto the mat, maybe you're bending the elbow, or just C-shaping the top arm around the head, feeling a twist and a stretch across the whole body, across the whole spine, which will allow for the release to happen in the area that needs it the most right now. It might be neck and shoulders for some of us, it might be more around the hips or pelvis for others. See what is true for you here. Brilliant. On the next inhalation, return to the center, hugging both knees in for a moment to find that balance, that neutral state in the body again. And through the twists, we are resetting not only the spine but the mind. Let go of the left leg, so it can be nice and long on the mat now, and hug the right knee towards you. And then create circular movements again into the hip joint on this side. You're in control, of course, how big or small this movement needs to be. And maybe noticing any differences between the two sides. For most of us, this would be the case. Now bringing that knee over to the left as the gaze goes to the right. The twist on this side of the body. Remember your options with the arms, whichever works best. And maybe some of you want to extend your right leg as well. That way you'll probably feel it a little bit more into your IT band, iliotibial band. Options, if the body is asking here for a slightly different variation of the movement, that by all means you have my permission to find it. Always listening to your body and following its impulse and guidance. Inhale back into the center. We will be coming up here, so either come onto the side, press into the mat and come up, or if there are no issues with the spine, you might wish to rock and roll first or if you just fancy this, and then come up as well. Brilliant. Okay, let's warm up our wrists a little bit just by making fists and then opening them out quite energetically, so we're engaging with the muscles, and then give it all a shake, the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, and then from here coming onto all fours, checking that the wrists are underneath the shoulders. The elbows can be soft, the knees under the hips. We're lengthening the tailbone, so again, engaging the lower abdominals here. So you don't have all the pressure into the shoulders and the wrist, but actually you're using your core muscles to support you as well. Brilliant. From here, a little bit of strength work this morning. So tucking the toes under, let's inhale to prepare. As you exhale, can you lift the knees off the mat ever so slightly to engage your core, and then lower. So we exhale to lift, inhale to lower, if that works for you. Of course, if that feels very manageable and you want a little bit more, you can just lift the knees off the mat and hold them there longer until releasing them down. Just make sure you're not lifting the knees higher. It's not a down dog just yet. This is just preparation and engaging our core a little bit more. And finally, if you're feeling particularly energetic today, because it is the spring solstice almost, you can just step the legs back and forth as you're holding it here. Maybe shift the weight from one knee into the other. And then relax into your balasana, pose of a child. Knees can be open wide with big toes touching or knees together. Hands by the feet for a more traditional balasana, which will give you more release into the shoulders. So just choose your options wisely, whichever works best for you this morning. And stay there for a few breaths. Noticing the breath traveling throughout the body. Noticing any shifts of energy since we began the practice today. And then as you're ready, just return to all fours. This time we're going to spread the fingers, tuck the toes, and lift the hips up into a downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. If the down dog is not for you today, then feel free to stay in all fours, and you can always go through variations of cat-cows, or equally you can just place the arms onto a wall and lengthen through the spine for a variation. For a down dog, something like this, which will still give you that lovely opening across the chest, across the thoracic, but without any pressure into the wrists or shoulders. And if you are in your down dog, feel free to bend one knee and straighten the other leg. So walking your dog, checking that the feet are about hip-width apart. Knees can be bent or soft, especially if there's tightness in the hamstrings, like in my case. Arms, hands are just wider than the shoulders. The head is relaxed, so you can shake it yes and no to check that there is no tension at all. And then just pause for a moment. You can come in and out of it as well if you need to take a break from your down dog. But once we pause and find stillness, again, think about that balance between the upper body, like the front, the arms, the shoulders, and the legs and the feet. And in down dog, it should be felt quite nicely, because if we find that middle ground somewhere, then it should feel like a very strong position, and there isn't more in the front or in the back. See if that is true for you. Tiny steps when you're ready to arrive at the front of the mat. We can bend the knees as much as we need to so the hands can reach.
or the fingertips can reach towards the floor. And then getting a hold of opposite elbow, swaying from side to side, ragdoll position, making the head and the neck really heavy, releasing any tension from the upper body, stretching the back body, the legs, the backs of the legs, the hamstrings, but also the lower back, the mid back. And then as you're ready, inhale, tuck the chin in towards the chest and start rolling up very slowly, articulating each vertebrae, with the head and neck being the very last to come up. Lovely, really nice, beautiful. Okay, because it's almost spring and summer, spring equinox, we'll do a few rounds of Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. The sun is here and we want to welcome it and we want it to stay. So spreading the toes here, just really connecting through the feet, feeling that groundedness. And then inhaling to bring the palms up and overhead. Hands meet. Exhale, hinging from the hips to find our swan dive. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift, hands on shins or maybe on the floor depending on how the hamstrings are feeling today. Exhale to Uttanasana, fold forwards again. Let's step your right leg back followed by the left. We're in a plank position. Of course you can come onto the knees if you prefer. And then very slowly, with control, hugging the elbows towards the chest, we'll lower down all the way. Forehead is on the mat. Feet are a little bit wider than the hips. And then inhale to a baby cobra. So just lifting the head and the shoulders ever so slightly. If there is no discomfort in the lower back and you feel you want to come up a little bit higher to Bhujangasana Cobra, it is an option, but if you do so, just make sure that the movement is coming from the upper body rather than the lower back, so there shouldn't be any discomfort there. Another option is a Sphinx pose with the elbows directly underneath the shoulders and shoulder blades reaching towards one another in the back. Exhale, forehead towards the mat, tuck the toes under, stepping back into downward facing dog. Taking one full breath here, bringing the feet together so the big toes are touching in the back, and then inhaling your right leg into the sky, stepping your right foot through to the front into a lunge, and then coming up into warrior one. So the front knee is bent, both hip bones are facing in the same direction, so you can take the feet wider. So you're not trying to balance on a tight rope. You're giving your hips a little bit of space. You might feel a stretch into the left calf, and you can keep the hands on the hips, or you can inhale the arms up, finding a warrior mudra with the index fingers touching, and maybe a gentle back bend if that feels good for you. One more inhale here. Exhale to place the hands onto the ground, stepping back into down dog again. Remember that child's pose in between is always an option, or just coming onto all fours. Otherwise, feet together in the back. Inhaling the left leg this time. Three-legged dog, and then stepping the left foot through to the front into lunge, helping it get there in increments as needed. Placing the right foot onto the mat, we're coming up into warrior one on the left side. Again, maybe checking first the foundation of the feet, hips facing in the same direction. So my right foot is at about 45 degrees back on the mat. And then if you're happy, finding your warrior mudra
Again, Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1, and adding a back bend if that suits you today. One more inhale here. Exhale to frame the foot, stepping back into a pose of a child this time. And finding a few relaxing, nourishing breaths there. Wonderful. Really lovely. Okay. As you're ready, let's inhale into all fours. Spread the fingers, tap the toes. Coming into a down dog again. And then walking the feet towards the hands, hands towards the feet, so we meet somewhere in the center of the mat. The head is heavy again. Another forward fold, Uttanasana. Remember, you can bend the knees generously here, so think about the chest reaching the thighs more than keeping the legs straight. And then on the inhalation again, tuck the chin towards the chest and slowly roll up and come up to standing. Give your shoulders a few rolls. And because it is spring equinox and because of course we want to honor nature and its beauty, we want to honor all the trees in nature and to bring more balance, I'd like to finish today's practice with a balancing pose. Vrikshasana, the tree pose. Okay, so if you're doing the mirror image of me, I'll talk you through it. So you'll be bringing the weight into your right foot, and then you'll be bringing your left foot just outside. So there's an external rotation going on of your left hip. Or maybe you're placing the foot higher up. We do generally try to avoid this area. You don't want to be pressing into your kneecap because they are quite, the knees, yeah, they can be quite sensitive. So above or below the knee. And yes, a balancing pose is all about playfulness. Maybe we feel wobbly, which makes our muscles work a little bit more for us. Maybe we come in and out of it. If you want to grow your tree, maybe it is a tree in the wind. Why not? So you can bring the palms of the hands together or find another mudra. If you're feeling particularly comfortable here today, you can always close the eyes to test that balance a little bit more. Lovely. And then let's gracefully come out of it. Give our legs a shake, give our arms a shake. Beautiful. And the other side, we start by putting all the weight into the left foot, zipping up the leg, involving our core muscles here before we go any further. Then this position is great because you're already engaging all the correct muscles and you're working on that balance. If it is accessible to you today and you want to go higher, absolutely fine. But like everything else, balancing postures do take time. And actually they are a great indication of how we're feeling generally. So the same posture on a physical level, right? Like your muscles don't change that much from day to day and how they engage. But actually how you're feeling in your body, in your mind will also affect your ability to find these balancing postures. And one side can be different from the other. Finding a drishti point, somewhere for the gaze to focus, something that isn't moving, might be helpful as well. And adding a smile to your face for some advanced yogis. Brilliant. Coming out of it. Again, gracefully. And then inhale the arms up and overhead. Bringing the hands towards the heart. Honoring the wisdom of our body. Our greatest teacher. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Happy spring solstice.